Goody.
My opponent's main claim is that the death penalty should be applied to juveniles on a case-by-case basis. Their secondary claims are that juveniles can sufficiently be deemed mature and culpable to receive the death penalty, and two, that the death penalty would help in the deterrence of juvenile crimes. My response to the claims is that juveniles are not mature enough to be culpable to receive the death penalty, and that two, the death penalty does not act as a deterrent to crime. And evidence to challenge my first claim is that adolescents generally seek greater risks for various social, emotional, and physical reasons, including changes in the brain's neurotransmitters, such as dopamine, which influence the brain, influence the memory, concentration, problem solving, and other mental functions. Dopamine is not yet at its most effective level in adolescence. My opponent claims a false analogy, which she states that juveniles can sufficiently be deemed mature, when in fact juveniles' brains are not fully developed enough to make wise decisions, therefore not being culpable to receive the death penalty. Throughout the claim, my opponent supports an irrelevant thesis in both of their points. In point A, my opponent states that a minor must understand the illness that comprehend the disease is attacking the body. In point B, my opponent states that a minor had the right to go before a judge and have her maturity level determined if she were to have an abortion. In the first point, my opponent gets off track by talking about the disease, and in point B, talks about abortion. In both points, fails to describe how juveniles can sufficiently be deemed mature. Evidence to challenge my second claim is that according to a survey of a former and present president of the country's top academic criminological society, 88% of experts reject the notion that the death penalty acts as a deterrent to murder, which I found on Radlin and Lockup 2009. And also consistent with previous years, the 2009 FBI Uniform Crime Report shows that the South had the highest murder rate. The South accounts for over 80% of executions. The Northeast, which has less than 1% of all executions, had the lowest murder rate. In accordance to the claim that my opponent states, juveniles are indeed risk-loving, and adults are typically more risk-adverse. Penalties for juveniles should be much higher for those than adults. This bifurcated claim would be a violation of equal rights, and since juveniles' minds are still underdeveloped, risk-taking for juveniles is inevitable. With this, I must beg the question, why should a juvenile be convicted more harshly for something they have less control over than for an adult who has full control, assuming they aren't mentally handicapped? My opponent's points fail to meet how the death penalty helps the deterrence of juvenile crimes by irrelevant thesis. My opponent also contradicts themselves. In neither of the points does my opponent state how the death penalty helps the deterrence of juvenile crimes. In point A, my opponent claims that the penalty should be higher for juveniles than adults. And in point B, my opponent claims that juveniles should be no less culpable simply because they are impulsive. In point A is contradiction to point B, as well as no mention of deterrence in juvenile crimes. So I have given you why juveniles are not mature enough to be culpable to receive the death penalty, and why the death penalty does not act as a deterrence to crime. Thank you.